Can everyone see my screen? Oh.
Yeah, we can see.
Okay. The session that David just did, if stuff isn't working completely, don't worry about it. This session is related, but we can do it in a way that you don't have to have everything deployed for it to work. So don't worry about it. I will paste the link in Slack. And okay, let me start with the presentation. Okay, can everyone see the presentation?
Yeah, we can see. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Okay, first of all, let me introduce myself. I'm Dominik Fleischmann. I work for Canonical and I have been involved with open source Mano for 1.5 years. This presentation is going to be about day 1 and 2 operations with CNFs, or as you also have heard them, KNFs. These terms can be used interchangeable, Kubernetes network functions or containerized network functions. Right now we're using them interchangeably. So if you see CNF, just think KNF, which means network functions deployed on Kubernetes. Okay, by now you should be quite familiar with this image. David has been introducing it quite some time, and I think I hope it should be a little clear of what the intention is of operations in OSM. Yes, there are several different types of network functions, and all of them need to be operated. So there are different ways of doing it, and almost always they involve charms. So in the case of our example that we're going to use for this presentation, it's the Squid KNF, which is the web cage, which would be between a physical router and the Magma APC, and filter specific websites that we want to see and websites that we don't want to see. Okay. One moment. Okay. So in this case, this KNF will be a native charm. This means that the charm itself will directly deploy the container and manage it directly, and all the actions will be executed directly on the container. Before starting with the charm by itself, let's talk about some topics that need to be addressed. There's a certain modeling language that Juju can use to deploy applications with multiple applications and define an architecture, and it's that language that we're going to use for our KNF. So there are different applications in that modeling language. Here in this example, we're having MariaDB and MediaWiki, which would be 2 applications, and the respective charms, which would be in charge of doing the operations of those applications. I'm sorry, I'm hearing some kind of echo. I'm just going to silence that person. Please feel free to unsilence you if you. Sorry. Okay, perfect. Okay, let me continue. So yeah, charms is where the operations code is located. They are usually written in Python. It's the recommended way of doing it. And in this modeling language here would be an example where we're using a MariaDB charm and a MediaWiki charm, which will operate our applications. Another important part of this architecture are the relations, which are actually integrations. This allows us to communicate MariaDB with MediaWiki, and allows MediaWiki to use MariaDB and to automatically integrate it. The nice thing about this is MariaDB could be used for different architectures, and has a ton of lifecycle scripts, integration scripts, and actions, which allow it to be reusable and also be able to have a long lifecycle and healthy lifecycle where we can deploy the application and maintain it. As you probably already know, actions are the way of doing operations. Once the charm is deployed, they can be written either in Python or in Bash, and they are defined in the charm metadata this way, and have certain parameters that we can define. Please stop me at any time if you have any question. And I think this has also been addressed already by David. We define through metadata in the VNFD these architectures, and the operations are defined in the charm, which is the operations code. So in the case of the Kubernetes deployment, we will define this bundle, which defines the architecture, which is the modeling language that I was talking about, inside of the section that is called Juju bundle. I will now talk about the bundle. And we also define the actions, which will be primitives inside of the descriptor also, which would here be the primitives which are mapping actions inside of the inside of certain applications of the bundle. So if you notice, there's also this application name section, which will tell you which application will be executing this action. And just to clarify, when we are deploying charm on Kubernetes, there will be an operator container which will execute the charm code, and workload containers, which will be the actual containers of the workload. In the case of MariaDB, it would be the MariaDB Docker container, or in our example, it would be the Squid Docker container, which will be operated by the operator container, which executes the charm code. So in the end, what is exactly what we need? So we have the VNFD metadata, which will define the bundles, the primitive mapping, which will map the actions to its charm, the bundle, which will define the charms and the kind of integration that it contains, and the charms by itself, which will define the operations code and their action scripts. Okay, so now let's get into our example, which is the web proxy, Squid. It's an open source application, which is used for proxying and web caching. So in this case, we would have our bundle here, which is defined here. And it's a really simple bundle. It only is one application, so we don't have any relations. So the application would be Squid, and the charm, which would contain the operations code, is located in charms Squid. So let's look at charms code. Inside of the charms, Kubernetes charms are very similar to the charms that we already know, which David already has shown. They have some minor differences, which I will address now. One of them is you have to decide that it's serious Kubernetes. This lets Juju know that this is not a machine charm. This is a charm that will be deployed on Kubernetes. So this is something essential that you always will have to define inside of the metadata. Another difference for the Kubernetes charm is that you have to define a pod spec. This is, for people that are familiar with Kubernetes, is the place which is really similar to the YAMLs that we all are used to in Kubernetes. There we will define which kind of containers we will use, which kind of ports will be forwarded, and a ton of other Kubernetes stuff which we would use for a more advanced application. Here it's really straightforward. We only define the ports that we are exporting, the containers that we are using, the container that we are using, and not much more. But this is where we would define all this specific Kubernetes YAML stuff inside of the charm. Okay, so the other thing that we will have to define as metadata in the charm is the actions. In this case, in our Squid charm, we will have two actions. We will have add URL, which will add a URL to the Squid config, which allows it to pass that URL, and delete URL, which would delete one of those URLs so that it remains blocked by Squid. Actions can be written both in Bash and Python. For this example, we have written one in Bash and one in Python because sometimes the container that you're using doesn't have Python, so you will have to use Bash. In our case, we created an image which also contains Python, so we can execute both. But I wanted to show both. So the add URL one is written in Python and Bash, sorry, that's basically the code. It's really straightforward. And the other one is written in Python, delete URL, and it seems a little more complex, but it really helps you to make more structured code and more maintainable code if you're writing the actions in Python. So we always recommend, if it's possible, write them in Python, include them in the operator framework, and it will be a lot easier for you in the long run. Okay, so how was this all put together in the VNFD? We can see it here. We have this KDU section where we define our bundle and where we define our actions with our parameters, and also always specifying the application name on which these actions will be executed. Regarding the network service, the NSD, it's the same as any other network service. There isn't really a big difference. The main difference is in the VNFD, so that's where we actually have to do severe changes. So okay, so now we get to the hands-on part. So let me switch to my terminal. Sorry. Yes, sorry. Has someone a question?
No, I thought we lost you. No.
Emma, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, so let me get to the terminal. Okay, the first thing that we have to do is get our packages, like we have done before. Can everyone see my terminal well, or should I do it make it a little bigger? Okay, I'll make it a little bigger. Okay. So first we will copy the Squid KNF folder in the examples folder where we have been copying everything, and copy that folder. So here, going to the Squid KNF, we have our CNF and NS. And let me just walk through again so that we can see it here in the terminal and make it a little clearer. This is the main part where we actually have information about the CNF. So it contains the VNFD, is this part, the Juju bundles folder, and the charms folder. So the VNFD is exactly what we were talking about in the presentation. It contains the KDU section, which is Kubernetes. It's the Kubernetes part, the counterpart to VDU. And here we define the bundle YAML that we are going to use and the actions that we're going to use inside of OSM. So the bundle YAML, this is really important, is always in Juju bundles. So if you want to use a bundle, you will always have to have it in the Juju bundles folder. So OSM will automatically search for the bundles in the Juju bundles folder, and there we have our bundle, which is really easy and straightforward. So we don't need that. Which is just the location of the charm, the application, and how many charms we're going to deploy. For now, we're just deploying one. Okay, so, and here in the charms folder, we actually have our Squid charm, which we can also look at, which has the metadata, where we can actually show serious Kubernetes, which is really important, because that's how we know how to write a Kubernetes charm, and where we also have the actions YAML, YAML, where we describe our actions. And if you are writing a bash action, you will have to write it inside of the actions folder as an executable here. This is one of the specific things about writing a bash YAML. Besides that, all the rest of our code lives in source, charm.py, where we have the make pod spec, which will make our Kubernetes YAML, and our action, which is on the lead URL. Okay, so that's basically the walkthrough of what the package contains. Now let's upload it, create it, and deploy it. So let me get inside. So we get inside of the Squid KNF folder. All these steps are in the presentations, and you might have to have some issues copy and pasting them because the PDF also always messes this up. I can also copy and paste the commands inside of Slack. Let me just do that right now. Okay, this would be the first one. Let me just copy and paste all of them. Okay, so we get inside of the KNF and we package our package. So what we do is just tar it. And the same for the network service package. Okay, so now we have the packages in the tar file, and now we have to upload them to OSM. So let me copy also those commands to the Slack. First uploading our CNF part and afterwards uploading our network service part. So now if we look at OSM VNFD list, we should have our package. You will probably have more packages because you have been following the whole Hackfest since now, and there will be several packages. But the important part is that you have the Squid one. So here, the same, we also have that package. Okay, once we have done that, the next step is to create our network service. So for that, we will use the following command, which I will paste in Slack. Important part here, please change this X for your tenant ID. So my tenant ID is 57, so I will use that one. This will deploy the service. Let us watch how it is deploying. This will take some, like 1 or 2 minutes. It's pretty fast. Kubernetes in general is pretty fast when deploying things. Maybe it's now a little slower because a lot of people are using it, but it shouldn't take very long. And there it is. It is ready and it is idle. Okay. So for the next part, which is executing our actions, we will have to go to another terminal. This is really important. We are going to use another terminal. I have here another terminal in the same VM because we're going to change the proxy that this machine uses to Squid. This will mean that it will block any traffic unless we allow it. So this means that if we are doing it in our terminal where we are operating OSM, we won't be able to access OSM unless we reset the proxy. Resetting the proxy is really straightforward. It is also noted in the slides, but let's for now do it in a different terminal and we can manage it easier. So, okay, we would use these commands. Let me also copy them inside of Slack. Okay, so these are the commands that we're going to execute. These are pretty straightforward. The only thing that they are doing is actually getting the IP, the public IP, which our Squid has from Kubernetes, so that we can use it as our proxy. So this is the key command. This command sets our proxy to the Squid proxy that we just deployed with OSM. And now, doing a curl to Google, it should give us this error, 403 from proxy after connect. This means that our proxy is right now blocking traffic to Google. If we execute this in our other terminal where we don't have the proxy set, it will give us a message from Google. So this means that in the place where we set our proxy, we're getting blocked, and in the place where we didn't, we aren't getting blocked. So what is it? What do we do if we want to allow traffic from Google? So for that, we have our action, which is called add URL, which is also in the slides, which will actually allow traffic from a certain URL that we are posting to be allowed by the proxy. So this is the command. Let me just paste it also in Slack. Okay, so what does this command do? It executes an action like the ones that we've been executing before. The important part here is we are stating which KDU we are using, because this is a Kubernetes network function, and we're also stating the application on which we are going to execute this action and the URL that we are allowing. So we execute this action, check its status here. Sorry, that happens because I'm not copy pasting the commands. Just make sure. Sorry. Okay, NSOP list. Sorry. Okay, this is the one, and we check if our action has been executed completely, successfully, and yes, it has been completed. And now, if we're going to curl Google again in our terminal where the proxy was blocking Google, it should give us the output. It isn't. That's strange. Demo effect as always. Let me just curl it here just to make sure. Okay, here it is working. It seems like the Squid proxy is taking some time. We can check it ourselves just to make sure what's happening here. No, okay, of course. Here I can't access it because I'm using the proxy. Let me just reset the proxy for a moment. Okay, so it is running. It should be working. Let me set the proxy again. Welcome to the demo effect. It has been haunting us for this whole Hackfest already, and it seems to haunt us today also. This is strange. I don't know what is happening here, but the Squid is having issues. Let me just execute the other action, which would delete the URL again, and see if it's working again, and it's maybe just having issues passing through the through stuff with the current Squid. So let me execute the other action, which would delete the URL. This one takes a little longer. It has been completed. Okay, so it is blocking it again. So I deleted the URL. So it's not allowing to pass the traffic now, and it's blocking it again. But when I added the URL, it seemed like Squid was having issues to actually pass it and was getting stuck. So that is strange. It means our actions are working, but probably Squid is having some issue. So let me just do add URL again, and maybe it fixes. Maybe in the second try it works. Strange. This is strange. There's been some issue, and the real thing is this has been tested like an hour ago, and it was working, and now it's not. It might be due to all the heavy traffic that we are receiving right now. Let me just check if how many people are right now.
So the NS is still instantiating from a long time, web cache.
Yes.
It's not the web cache NS, it has been building from a long time. It's not done yet.
Okay, I think, yes, I see there are several ones that have been initiated now, and I highly suspect that the Kubernetes is saturated. I don't know if Jan-Peter is in the call, or David, if you can check. I think probably the Kubernetes is crashed. And do you know if the Kubernetes is having issues? Because it seems like people are having issues with initiating their network services, and I mean, all of them have still Magma deployed also, so it might be too much for the cluster.
Let me check. We have 470 pods. It loads up to 550. It's loaded, distributed in 5 pods. I'm not sure. There is just one that says init, but the other ones are running.
Okay, so the other ones are running.
Well, one is running, and well, most are running. One says pending, and the other one says init. But the other, like 15, are running.
Okay, so please check again with OSM-NS list if your service has been deployed correctly. It should say ready idle.
For tenant 50, it is not. So shall I delete and make it again?
Yes, you can try that. Maybe it's exactly the one that Jan-Peter is meaning, that is still in init. So yeah, please delete it and try it again. It might be. I had one of these issues yesterday, so it might be something that it got stuck. So please try again. Does anyone else have this issue of still being in a building, or do other people have it in ready already?
No, actually, this is tenant 8, Nishank. I tried it reinstantiating the network service, but it's still showing in broken state. Like I deleted it, I again deleted it, but it's coming back again to that broken state.
Broken state?
Yeah. The other one, right? The other network service, or this new one? Which network service are you trying to?
Oh no, it seems like it's the web. Are you for us the one that has posted it in the?
Oh, this is tenant 8, Nishank.
Tenant 8.
Tenant 8. When I do OSM-NS list, the web cache shows as broken.
Yes, shows as broken. Has not. Okay. Case cluster has not been initialized for Juju bundles. In your case, you would need to. It's tricky because you have already an orchestrator.
Yeah.
Okay, mine is done now. I tried again. It's okay now.
Okay, great. So if you have it done, please try the actions and see if they are working for you, please.
In tenant 8, the solution will be to recreate your K8s cluster. For some reason, when you create it the first time, it did not initialize the Juju bundles. And so it's not able to deploy anything with Juju. So, but you won't be able to delete it if you have the other orchestrator deployed through that K8s cluster, I guess. I'm not sure if it would let you delete it. But the cleaner solution would be to reinstantiate everything, but first of all, refresh, deleting and creating again the K8s cluster.
So the K8s cluster creation would be done by you, because I did not get that. So
no, I mean the solution is to recreate your K8s cluster.
Okay.
But you have the other network service deployed. that depends on this K cluster. So I don't know if it would let you delete it. So you would have to delete everything and create your K cluster. That's what I'm trying to say. If you do a show, a K cluster show on your cluster, you will see that Juju bundle says timeout. That means that it when you create it the first time, it timed out when trying to create a controller at the K cluster.
Okay. So what would be the way forward for this? Because we haven't, we got the K cluster, we haven't actually created those, right? So
the only thing you would have to do is, well, the issue is you have already the orchestrator deployed. So you would have to delete the orchestrator and everything else that you have deployed on this K cluster and create a new one. Because when you look at OSM K cluster show, this is the thing that should show up. Juju bundle created, true, and with an ID. If that's not happening, you can't deploy charms on the K cluster. What could be another option, I don't know if Gian-Pietro agrees because it would create another Juju controller, is just adding the same cluster again in OSM and see if it adds the Juju controller correctly and then just use that cluster to deploy it.
But you will need another beam. No, because it's one-to-one relation with
as I understand it, you can add several clusters in the same bin.
But how do you pick one?
Yeah, that's the thing. Our picks just
remove the previous one. So if
okay,
you add one and then remove the old one, it should use the new one.
So yeah, I think the only option that you have is deleting the orchestrator that you have deployed, delete all your network services, delete the cluster with OSM K cluster delete, and afterwards adding it again and see if you get this message in OSM K cluster show, which gives you that the Juju controller has been bootstrapped correctly. Because else you can't deploy Juju charms.
Okay, so how do we re-add? You said I'll delete the Magma orchestrator, I'll delete the network service, I get that. I'll delete the K cluster also, I also get that. How do I re-add? What are the parameters or the values which I need to provide to re-add K?
So this should be in one of the slides that we've been showing. I think it was in the presentation of Gerardo, where we had the command to add the cluster. I can send you the slides. I think it was in the presentation.
Ahmad Ali has just pasted in the chat. It's a same command, right?
Yes,
OSM
this is the one.
cluster.
Thank you, Ahmad. That's exactly the one.
Okay. Okay, I'll try running all of these. Okay. Sure.
Thank you. Okay, does anyone else have issues? Please let me know. Let's try to fix them. Let me see if you have been successful with creating it, please update the Excel sheet in column V and W. That way I can see how many of you have done it successfully. I've seen there are 3 people, which is already something, and I'm happy about that. Please feel free to update it or let me know if you have any issues, please. Okay, Faraz, I'm seeing you having an issue with broken idle. Can you please do the following command, OSM K cluster show, and then etc cluster and your tenant number. I'm going to copy that command in Slack so that you can. For us, please execute that command and afterwards check in the Juju bundle section if you have a created true and ID and an ID. If that's not the case, you will probably have to do the same as the other person who had to delete the K cluster. I'm sorry, I'm not remembering whose name it was.
Can you copy paste the delete command? Delete action.
The delete action. Delete
Yeah.
Delete URL. That's the one in the last slide. I can copy paste it.
Yeah, there's some error, I guess. Just bad request or invalid.
Hi, this is Canonical. After executing this command, I am getting an output, right? What you are seeing on the screen.
You're executing primitive add URL non-type. Sorry, who is talking? I got lost. For us?
I have posted that, but he's asking something else. I posted that add URL error.
Was the network service deployed correctly?
Yes.
Okay. Attribute applications. Sorry, did you exactly copy and paste the command that I've posted in Slack or in the slides?
Yeah, from Slack.
Okay. Which one is your tenant number?
50. 50.
Okay, let me check. Let me try just executing the action again. No, what was happening there? It's the add URL one that we want. Same thing. Okay, this is strange. I'm using primitive. There's no attribute applications. Okay, let me just check the code one moment. Where this would happen. This is add URL, so we would have it in the bash one. I'm really not sure what's happening here because honestly never seen this error. The strange thing is it's giving me an error which seems Python related, but this action is a bash related one, so it's a little strange. I'm honestly not entirely sure what's happening here. OSM, okay, so it's the KDU bundle, which should be. I'm not really sure what's happening there. Maybe it has gotten into a weird state. Let me just check one moment how the pod is.
Okay.
If anyone else has issues, let me know, although I'm right now with this one.
How do we delete certain actions here?
Okay, the pod seems to be operational and everything. So this is strange. I don't know if we have time for it right now to debug it. Maybe try to redeploy it just in case. But this is definitely interesting because I've never seen this error before. So maybe try to redeploy it. If it's not working still after that, I have to look at it, but I don't think we have time for that. Just try to redeploy it else. I'm sorry that I can't solve it right now. I'm not entirely sure what's happening. Did someone else say it? Detail case cluster. Okay, for us, you're having. Okay, for us, you're having exactly the same issue that the other person had. You will have to delete your network services and delete the case cluster and recreate it because the Juju controller wasn't created correctly. So that's what's happening there. So you aren't able to deploy the charm because Juju is not enabled in that case cluster that you added. So you will have to re-add it. Let me check the error that Ambarish is having.
And after re-adding, Dominik, what is that should we look for? It is in the right state. What is the exact thing we should look for?
I show it right now. Okay, let me just. You see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, one moment. I'm getting into my tenant again. Okay, so what you should be seeing is you do case cluster show with the name of your cluster, and you should be seeing this. This is the important part. Juju bundle created true. If that's not happening, it means that your cluster is not ready for charms.
Okay, I'll do that. And for this session, it's I only need to deploy the Squid one, right? Not the Magma and the HEW, right?
No, for this one you only need the Squid one. Correct. Ambarish, regarding your action, you don't have to delete the action. If the action fails, it just tells you that it failed, but you can re-execute any action without any issues. If the URL that you are deleting is not existing, the normal behavior is for the action to fail. So everything that is happening there is correct. So everything is right there.
When I deleted the URL, it's still, when I do a curl, like still gives me 301. Instead, I thought it would give me a 403.
It's still giving you that one?
Yeah.
Did you set the proxy? Because that's one of the instructions that I put in the slides.
Yeah.
Make sure you have set the proxy set, so you have the proxy IP as export HTTPS proxy IP.
Yeah, I did a reset of the proxy.
Okay, so you don't have to reset it. If you are testing it, so you should set the proxy again. You should have the proxy as like this. Let me get to that terminal. So you should have this. You should execute this, so you have the correct proxy.
No,
and
sorry,
then it should give you the 403 error again.
Okay, we'll check that. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Okay, anyone else? If you have any more issues, please tell me now. Else, I'm going to stay here until 1:15, and I'm going to start the lunch break. So if you have any issues, let me know now so I can help you. And afterwards, I'm going to start the lunch break, and everyone can have lunch.
When I run the CURL, I didn't get the 403 error.
And did you set the proxy to? Did you execute the export HTTPS proxy IP?
Yes.
Okay, and did you execute the action add URL?
I did.
Okay, and did you afterwards execute the action delete URL?
No, I did not.
Okay, if you execute the action add URL, you will not get the error because you added the Google URL to the proxy list so that it accepts it. Once you execute the delete URL again, you will get the error again. So the process is you deploy it, you get the error, you execute add URL, you don't get the error, you execute delete URL, and you start getting the error again.
Okay. Just out of curiosity, I ran it for another website like Yahoo, And I did not get any response this time.
Yes, that's happening to me also. It seems like some of the KNFs have been are struggling with the load because of how the K cluster is right now handling it. It seems like some people are getting responses, some people are not. But as long as you are at least not getting the 403 error, I think we are good. So I wouldn't worry about that. If you are trying it at home afterwards with a case cluster that isn't having 50 people executing stuff on it, I'm sure it will work without any issues.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dominik, I'm getting one error which I posted on the Slack after running one of the commands.
Okay, let me check. Let me check that. You were the tenant 50, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was not coming before. Connection refused.
Okay. Okay, it's ready, and you're having issue with that. Let me check the. Okay, it seems to be running. Okay, let me also execute it now. It seems to be working for me. Maybe make sure you don't have the proxy set. Reset the proxy with this command, like this, without the URL. Make sure you're doing that, because maybe you are reaching the IP because you still have the other proxy set.
Oh, okay, fine. Okay.
Okay, let me check if someone has updated the spreadsheet. Okay, 5 people. Okay, that's already something. If you were successful, please update the spreadsheet. I can post it again in Slack in case you lost the link. It's really helpful for us to know how many people actually were able to complete it. So please, why did I do that? So please do update it.
Yeah, Dominik, tenant 8 here. You suggested all those steps of delete URL, delete cluster, right? Sorry, delete VNF, delete cluster, and recreating. After that, it's working for me. So just.
Oh, perfect. Great news. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Okay. Am I still there? Can anyone hear me? Okay. Okay, can everyone still hear me and see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. In that case, I think I'm glad I could help some people. Let me start the lunch break. If you have any more questions, let me know over Slack. I will be happy to help you. But let's start the lunch break, and I think after the lunch break, we're going to start with the ecosystem day. So stay tuned for that.
Yes, thank you, Dominik. So just a reminder, the ecosystem day starts at 2:30 CET, so a bit later, half an hour later than the other days. We have a slightly longer lunch break today. And we hope to see you all back at 2:30 for the ecosystem day.
Okay, it's the same Hackfest link like this one?
Very same bridge, so you can stay connected or come back as you prefer. We will leave the bridge open.
Okay, perfect. I will leave this message here. Okay.
Thank you, Silvia.
Thank you, everyone. If you have any more questions, let me know in Slack.